Didn't quite get a full day's play yet again in this Boxing Day test, but we still have plenty to discuss. Certainly the hosts in front after leading by 11 and still having 5 wickets, the day belonging to the outgoing Dean Elgar. So Sanjay Manjrekar on ESPNcricinfo Matchday will answer questions on the Elgar Beddingham partnership, on India's bowling on day 2, and that after KL Rahul managed to get to triple figures early on. So Sanjay, let's start with Dean Elgar. It's almost a fairy tale finish which not many players get. Is this the same old Dean Elgar or something new with his third fastest test 100?
See, when you decide to quit, and it happened to me as well, when you decide to quit and you sort of play your last couple of matches, there is a different approach. You know, your mind is a little more relaxed because there's nothing at stake, there's nothing to lose, and you see that with a lot of public performers who, you know, call it a day and they just come out there and then they perform for the right reasons, and that is something that came into play, I guess, with Dean Elgar. You saw the value of old-fashioned test batting from Dean Elgar. You know, first being very watchful, leaving a lot of balls outside off stump. And once he got his eye in, he spotted the guys who weren't quite, you know, up to the mark and cashed in on the Prasidh Krishnas and Shardul Thakur. The drive and the pull shots, nothing was, you know, played in a carefree fashion. Even the cover drives were watchful and typical test match kind. So Dean Elgar, we'll miss him, and somebody who's so good, you often wonder why they feel it's time to wind up.
All right. Now, did India make his life easier, or could they have made his life harder? Assessment of the surface also comes in here on whether it was different from what we saw on day 1.
The pitch definitely got better, at least towards the end of the day, maybe not right at the start for India. I was a little disappointed that India took a little more time than they normally do to get adjusted to the conditions, especially Bumrah. It takes Bumrah just 3-4 balls to know, you know, what kind of line and length to bowl. I thought he was trying to swing the ball too much before he realized that this is a pitch where you use the pitch more, and round the wicket angle also came in a little later. The first spell, I thought Mohammad Siraj was the best bowler. Prasidh Krishna may have been asked to do something different that he doesn't like to do, so he took a while to get his bearings, and towards the end of his, fourth spell, we saw the best of Prasidh Krishna with the wicket as well. And Shardul Thakur was doing his thing. You know, he's a guy who will try everything to get a wicket. So slightly disappointing bowling performance, but still managing to get wickets to be in the game.
What accounts for their extra time taken to understand what lengths to bowl? We not only saw a lack of wickets in the middle session, but a high scoring rate of almost 4.5. There were lots of boundaries as well hit today. Does it add up?
Good question, because you wonder. Bumrah, I mean, right through the World Cup, we kept raving about how quickly he'll assess. India played all over India in the 50 overs World Cup, and for every pitch, you had to bowl slightly differently, and Bumrah was one of the first guys to make the right adjustments. So that was a bit of a surprise. And there was a tactical blunder as well in that second session when you had, you know, Prasidh Krishna and Shardul Thakur starting off, and that should have been Bumrah again bowling round the wicket, keeping it simple, and Siraj bowling from the other end. That would have maybe changed matters. So it was unexpected for India to find that much time to know the right kind of bowling style, because we saw the South African struggle in the first innings, and I thought India will be on the game right away. I mean, it's something that we've seen with this Indian team. So I was surprised, you know, it didn't happen quick enough, and I don't know why that happened.
I'd like to probe that tactical blunder further, because for our viewers who may not have followed the entire day's play, at lunch, South Africa were 49 for 1, so they were still trailing by 196. We saw it in the middle session straight after lunch on day 1. Rabada dismissed Shreyas and Kohli, and it almost looked like a different game, even though India had fought back. Here you saw partnership then build, and the tactical call Sanjay Manjrekar speaks of is Shardul and Prasidh then bowling 8 overs before we saw Jasprit Bumrah, who accounted for the only 2 wickets in that middle session. Any reason why we didn't see Bumrah? And a lot of runs were scored as well. I think over 40 runs were scored in those 8 overs.
The only reason I can see, I'm not saying that's the right reason for them to not bowl, is that this team management, you know, invests a little more in the new talent. Prasidh Krishna just bowled 2 overs before the lunch break, so they wanted to maybe give him an extended spell and feel that he was part of the game, and didn't want to give him the feeling that we think Bumrah is our main guy and you wait your turn. Maybe that was the logic. Or the other thing could be working the load of
Managing the workload,
Bumrah.
Yes.
So who hasn't played Test cricket for a while.
Yep.
That could be the other reason, but both weren't good enough reasons for them not to bowl after lunch.
Yep, fair enough. Now, Prasidh Krishna is perhaps the victim of instant results that were expected out of him in what was supposed to be friendly conditions for him. He was thought to be the point of difference, perhaps the type of bowler India missed on their last tour to South Africa. It's always harsh to criticize a debutant too much in just his first outing. Bowled well towards his last few overs, very expensive in his first 8 to 10. Where does he stand for you on how he bowled today?
The field was set for him to bowl the kind of lengths that he bowled. Shardul Thakur as well, when he was bowling at 3 men in the cover. So the captain wanted them to bowl full and try and get batters out on trying to drive the ball. And Tony de Zorzi as well was in the crease, not coming forward enough. So maybe that was the plan. But that's something Prasidh Krishna can't do as well as he sort of hits the deck. I think now the captains and the team management have to realize that even bowlers, it's the same kind of approach that has to be there. They must bowl to their strengths. And then you find a way to get wickets out of them.
Liked what you saw of David Bedingham on his first outing in Test match cricket?
Yeah, loved it, because we are seeing a new generation of South African batters emerging, with Quinton de Kock gone, Dean Elgar set to retire. So these are the guys who will be bearing the flag. And he's got everything that you need. He's got a good defense, short backlift, so anybody who pulls the ball and drives the ball, wins me over quickly. The guy who spends time in England and in South Africa, and that's a great way to make your batting wholesome, where you don't have too many weaknesses, because you're playing pace and bounce in South Africa, you're playing the moving ball in England. Perfect start, and loved it.
Until he comes to India on some of our surfaces.
That's a completely different ball game. He shouldn't come very soon.
But that's for another day. All this happened after KL Rahul put India in what we thought was actually a very decent position, a score of 245 after what we thought was a really difficult day of batting on day one. And the way he's got to his 100, the gears that he shifted, a lot of high praise coming from a number of former players. Where do you rate this KL Rahul 100?
Brilliant 100 by the man. I mean, just hats off with the quality of batting that we saw. There was Rabada bowling, at him. The rest weren't really bowling as well. Marco Jansen was off his game, Kotze as well, and Andre Berger. But he came in a situation where he couldn't afford to get out. So the defensive technique mattered. He showed that superbly. And then as he saw that he was running out of partners, the way he played with people like Mohammad Siraj and Shardul Thakur, this is where you see the benefits of T20 cricket, because the shot that he played to get to 100, if you had a pure test batter with no big game at his beck and call, it would have been a little more difficult. Every time he wanted to hit the ball out of the ground, or surprise the opposition by hitting a boundary on the 4th or 5th ball, he had the shot for it.
What can we expect on day 3, with South Africa still 5 wickets in hand and a lead of 11, and Temba Bavuma still a specialist batter technically yet to come, although we don't know what kind of fitness he'll be in?
Well, the pitch is definitely playing a lot better. On day 1, there were certain balls that were stopping and coming onto the bat. Those pitches are very difficult to play shots on. Even the defensive play, you can get an outside edge with the ball just pops up from a length. That is not happening as much. So playing shots, hitting boundaries will get a little easier. People who are out there having a look at the pitch believe that it will play better on day 3, provided the lead is not too big. I'm expecting India to get a good score, but we all, supposedly cricket pundits, thought 245 was more than enough. And South Africa's reply has made us all eat the humble pie. And I tell you, it doesn't taste too well.
It's a funny session or day this, when the partnerships building on the one hand, and then wickets they fell in 2. So anything could still happen on day 3, where we expect Sanjay Manjrekar's company at the end of day 3 on what is considered to be the moving day.
Yeah, maybe in South Africa moving day. In India, in the test matches that we have, day 3 is the final day of the test match.
And on that jovial note, given this is in South Africa, we will be back at the end of day 3 with Sanjay Manjrekar on ESPN Cricinfo Match Day.